and you've used these terms before. Apathy is the absence of recognition of other, maybe even the absence of recognition of myself. Just sort of the numbness, could be self-focused, avoidance. The sympathetic response, which often we think is going to be helpful, is where I'm so focused on you, and in the first moment that may be helpful. But there's a loss of the self. And so this very quickly becomes a pleasing or a controlling response, where I'm trying to manage you without an awareness of what I'm doing, because seeing you in distress puts me in distress. Empathy, I'm aware of my inner world. I'm responsible for managing it. I'm learning about yours. And so as I share with you, I get a sense of what it's like to be you. I also maintain a sense of what it's like to be me, and I make choices about how to do good, rather than merely respond trying to manage your state or your emotion. In this, it's so important to recognize we can only connect when we're vulnerable, and if I'm not available to myself, I can't be vulnerable with you. And this is how we can come across seemingly either controlling or, like the deer, even irrelevant. Anybody want a sandwich? That's not really where I was at the moment. But saying I want a sandwich calms the deer. Didn't connect. The deer was not vulnerable. It took control to protect itself. You know, keeping in mind our dilemma here, we're needing love, we need to be loved, we need the closeness, we need safety. Not either, both. And this constant tension, we have it within us. Empathy is working through that tension of being aware of myself, being aware of the other, and who's managing safety now? With empathy, I'm managing safety. With sympathy, you got to do the right thing so I feel safe. And the odds of that are pretty low. No matter how good I am, I still can't get you to do what I want all the time. Empathy, safety's managed by the lover. I'll be choosing how to reveal and receive, rather than just be respondent to the outside. Anyone who's taken any classes with me has had this tattooed on the inside of their eyelids. But I have found, yeah. I still dream about, no.
It's a good thing.
But I have found this so exceedingly helpful, this little definition. In sorting this out, how do I minister to others? How do I take care of myself in this setting? How do I relate to my colleagues? I am responsible for how I treat myself, how I manage me. I am responsible for how I treat others, how I manage my relationships, my outside world. That is my responsibility. That is my personal power. That is my dignity. What I do makes a difference. God created humans to have influence and impact on their world. What I do makes a difference. Why do I volunteer? I want to do something meaningful. I want to have a positive influence in my culture. That's our design. I am responsible. What I do makes a difference. But I am not God. There's a lot of evidence supporting that statement. I am not responsible for how others treat me. I'm not responsible for how other people treat other people. And I'm not responsible for how other people treat themselves. That is their dignity. That is their power, their sphere of influence. That is my freedom. I am free to love. I am not encumbered for the outcome. I am free to do what is good and right. That is not determined by what they do, but by a higher standard that I submit myself to. So while what I do has influence on others, I'm only responsible for what I do in my part of it, not for their experience. Your reaction to this criteria?
This was probably one of the most freeing things that I learned in your classes, this. It's like, okay, so I wasn't responsible for the way that people impose shame on me. I wasn't responsible for that. This was a very freeing thing to learn. And I've seen this when I've taught this to other people, that they go, wow, I wasn't responsible for that. And it is, I think that's a really freeing thing.
It has been in my life, yes. Any other observations, criticisms, corrections?
Just an observation where it says I'm not responsible for how others treat others. That doesn't mean you never intervene.
Right.
Or get into situations.
Right.
So you're not responsible, again, for the outcome. You can't take that upon yourself after you've done all that you are able to do.
So a child comes to me and reveals that they're being abused in their home environment. I'm not responsible for that child being abused. I'm not responsible for that child not being abused in the future. What am I responsible for in that story? I'm responsible for reporting what I know, to revealing that to the authorities for them to do what they're responsible for. I can't save the child. None of us in here are saviors. But because I'm not a savior, that doesn't mean I'm nothing. No. I am responsible for what I do when I see the wrongdoing happen. So this does not give me permission to be indifferent and selfish. Quite the contrary. I am responsible when I see wrongdoing. What am I going to do here? This actually energizes us. What we often see, the people that we're ministering to, and we wrestle, all of us wrestle with it too, but people live in the bottom part. I'm responsible for how other people treat me, but I'm helpless. I can't get them to treat me right. I'm responsible for how they're treating themselves. I can't get them to get off the substance or to whatever. And trying to control what they can't, they experience themselves as highly helpless, insignificant, powerless, controlled by others. We can model this to them. We can teach this to them. We can teach it to ourselves continually. Sorting out the boundaries. Boundaries allow for safety. Boundaries are necessary for safety. Safety, closeness, we need them both. A boundary defines, gives us freedom. Let me just skip ahead just a second. It provides protection and self-control. I want to just share with you a metaphor for boundaries. Many people experience themselves like a warehouse. There's an outside, it's got a door, probably a big padlock on it. And then when you get inside, it's pretty much open. So keep people out, but if they get in, they might get on a forklift and start rearranging me. So closeness, which is needed, is very scary. Closeness is very difficult, and it's sort of an either or. And so we see them get into destructive relationship after destructive relationship, etc. Or we could think of ourselves more like an old Victorian home, where I think of my grandparents' place. They had a farm in a hilly area, home, something like that, and it had a lot of rooms, and it had a lot of doors, it had a lot of windows, it had a porch, it had a fence, and some of the people my grandfather would meet on the other side of the fence out in the open area in the farm, like the guy who sold him fuel, he did all his business out there. Others he would invite onto the porch, and they'd sit there and they'd talk, but they wouldn't come into the house. Some people were invited into the house, but only into the front room. They would not be allowed into any of the other rooms. Family could go into any number of places in the house, but I never got into one room that was upstairs. Seeing the movie Psycho, I got some ideas what might be in there. I don't know. kind of a scary house. Grandparents' room, we only could go in if they invited us in. The room that we would stay in, we could go in and out anytime that we wanted. Grandma would open windows, let air in and out, usually get air, cooking aromas out. That was not her gift. Grandpa would open doors, shut doors. You know, he'd bring in whatever animal, shut the door to keep the animal in or keep the animal out. A lot of management of all these boundaries. It wasn't like a warehouse. And certain people were invited into certain places and others weren't invited there. An activity for you to do. I encourage you to think of yourself like a house. Not the building you live in, but metaphorically, think of yourself like a house. What rooms do I have in my house? How are they connected? What is close? What is far away? Who is invited into what room? Who is not invited into those rooms? Do I have a room that no one's invited into? Do I have a room in my house that I've never gone into? It's scary. I don't go there. What rooms do I invite the Lord into? He comes by invitation. You know, I stand at the door and knock. Do I invite him in? Do I only invite him into my chapel and my front room? Do I invite him into my game room? Do I invite him into my den, my library, my bedroom? Explore this idea of what is the house of me and what rooms do I have? Share it with a safe person after you've worked on it for a while. Just describing how you see it. There is not a right or a wrong way to do this. Only you will know. Second, we often remodel, build on, maybe take down an old porch that's no longer useful. The house of me is for this moment. How am I going to grow with this? Something for you to explore. Yeah, all those things. It's very important as we are ministering and helping that we develop realistic expectations. If I'm only in that sympathy mode like the deer in our little video, I'm expecting everybody needs a sandwich or encouragement, and I don't have vulnerability, and before long I find out that I'm very isolated. Others aren't responsive. What will realistic expectations look like? I'm going to list a few. I ask you to just sort of do a gut check. What's this like as you consider this? Loss is normal. A very discouraging fact about human history. There is no known time in human history that humans have not been at war. We like to think peace is the norm and then war breaks out. But that's not how human history has been. War is normal. Peace is unusual. Peace is unusual. Loss is normal. We live a long time. We have such incredible healthcare options that we expect to continually get better, et cetera, et cetera. What was life expectancy in 1900 in the United States? 49, I think it was. It was very common to lose several of your children in the first couple of years. My allergist told me that I would have probably died at about 36 because I had chronic sinus infections in that phase of life. He said, yeah, go through the cemetery and look at how many people died in their 30s and early 40s before World War II, before antibiotics. Sinus infections. So I said, what would have happened before these antibiotics? Oh, you'd be dead. Great bedside manner. Loss is normal, and we like, with our affluence or our technology, to protect ourselves from that. But in a fallen world, this is what we encounter. This is what everyone we minister to encounters. I'm finite. Still working on that one. The humility that we need to have, it's not our natural reaction. Time is finite. There are more positive opportunities than any of us can fulfill. There are more good things available than we can do. All has sinned, not just the bad people or the people not like me. The whole idea of boundaries of responsibility that we just reviewed. And then I'd like to take us through, just in wrapping up, some thoughts on what I can do, what I cannot do. Because when I'm realistic with these boundaries, I'm freed to be vulnerable, to connect, to meet the needs. So, yes, brief review. I am responsible for how I treat myself and how I treat others, but I am not responsible for how others treat me, treat others, or treat themselves. If I keep this in mind, I can start sorting it out. I cannot take away others' pain. I cannot take away their pain. A sandwich, or telling them that at least you're married, or only one of your kids is a loser, that doesn't take away the pain. I cannot make up for others' losses. I cannot meet that need to fill that hole in them. I'm not the answer. I cannot save them or fix them. I cannot get them to do what I see as good. I can't get them to make good choices. I got a wonderful plan for your life. Follow it, you'll do well. It doesn't work. I cannot get them to take care of themselves. I'm thinking for the nurses how often it's very simple. Do this and this and this, and this will be very good for you. And what's the compliance rate?
Zero.
Excuse me? Near zero. We very practical, tangible things that are so obvious. And we people don't do those. I cannot make them understand what is real. I can share a truth with them. I can reflect goodness to them. It's surrounding them, and I can't get them to pick it up. I cannot make them understand my perspective. They see me a certain way. I can't change that. I may influence it. I can't change that. Well, if we wrap up here, a little discouraging. But I encourage us to recognize when we identify what I cannot do, and I let go of that, freedom. Freedom. Think about that in terms of our salvation. When I let go trying to be good enough and all the pressure, I can then live in the freedom of grace, where instead of being motivated by fear and shame, I'm now motivated by love, and I can go towards what's good. So what can I do? I can pray with them, for them, teach them to pray. Have you ever heard someone or found yourself saying something like, well, I wish I could do more, all I can do is pray, which if we translate that literally, all I can do is take our concerns before the all-loving, merciful creator and sustainer of the universe. We underestimate the tremendous importance of prayer. To be in dialogue with the source of love, the source of power, the source, and knowing that that source longs for us to be in relationship with him. Wow. We can pray, and we can teach others to pray. Letting them have that entrance into the relationship as well. We can speak the truth. We can stay in reality. Sometimes I think of the ministries that we're involved in, we're like a lighthouse. We stay stable. We reveal, share what's good and real. People come in and out, towards us and away from us, back and forth. And we stay in that same place. They'll know where there's safety. Safety is necessary to love and be loved. We can listen. not have sound waves impact our eardrums, but we can work to understand the experience of another person. We can interact with them to help us understand them, have them confirm that we are understanding what they're saying or they're clarifying with us. When I don't know what to do, I know I need to listen. I always know what to do now. To listen affirms the image-bearing value of the other person. We always can do that. Every one of us needs this. We can help clarify choices, identify potential consequences. We can be a reflection outside of them, but for them, helping a person see what they may not be able to see. We can help another understand what is happening. Sometimes we can offer a description or we can offer a perspective that puts it into a new light. And in that empathetic understanding, there's a connection and a benefit to the other as well. We can set and maintain boundaries. Abuse occurs with boundary violations. Betrayal is a boundary violation. Damage done is a boundary violation. It's not the way it ought to be. Often when we're helping someone, they want us to stretch or change our boundaries. Knowing what my boundaries are, what I will do, what I won't do, knowing that brings safety not only to me and to our relationship, but is good for the other. They learning it's okay to have boundaries helps them have their own. And many of the people we serve have never had a sense of their own boundaries. I can model and teach wellness, righteous living. They are watching us. We watch each other. We can provide links to a larger community. We can help others be realistic in family or in community. We may help them understand the challenges that the person's facing, etc. We can sometimes even facilitate multiple people in the same group, family or other group, communicate with one another. We can be present during grief. We can't bring back what's been lost. We can't make it better. We can't take away the pain, but we can do something exceedingly important. We can be present. Lou mentioned that experience with a person, just give her a hug, no words. I encourage you not to do that with a stranger. That we need to know what a hug would mean to the other person. There's many times where that's not. But the presence, however, it might just be eye contact. That's a very strong sense of presence. That we can offer to other. We can show caring. We can seek support, supervision, and consultation for ourselves. One of the things I can do is not be a lone ranger, a lone wolf. Has it ever bothered you that in Scripture we're referred to as sheep? I don't like that. I want to be like cheetah. That'd be cool. Panther. Eagle? Yeah, not bad. Sheep. All those others eat them. We are not designed to be alone. We are not designed to do this alone. God said before the fall, not good to be alone. One of the things that we can do is we can respond to what we need. We can seek support from others, understanding, guideline, feedback, observations, as iron sharpens iron. And as I was sharing with you earlier, we can love. No one can stop us from loving. No one can stop us from loving. We can love. We can seek and do good, no matter what the scenario is. When I don't know what to do, I can listen and I can seek, well, what would be good here? I can explore and then take an action. Karen, an application of this. Do you want to make some comments about this?
What's up there? Yeah, thanks.
Some of you have read the book Toxic Charity, and there's another one called When Helping Hurts. I was just, as I was listening, struck with how many books really kind of affirm and confirm these same types of thoughts in different ways. And one of the handouts we gave you comes from the book Toxic Charity, The Oath for Compassionate Service. The very first one lines up exactly with what Dan's been saying. I will never do for others what they have or could have the capacity to do for themselves. That also frees us, so we don't try to do someone else's work, but I think practically speaking, when we're serving here, that can be a challenge. We can want to pick up the phone on their behalf and make some calls. We can want to, walk them here, walk them there. Sometimes that's helpful and appropriate, but sometimes we have to let them take those steps. There's some things about giving. I think all of the change places would be the same in this, that we don't give financially to people, but I think you can even think of other things too. Limit one-way giving to emergency situations. It could be grabbing that person and driving them somewhere because, oh my gosh, if they don't get over there, all their belongings are going to be taken somewhere else. But once, maybe, in that crisis, because twice you create anticipation. Have you seen this 3 times? Expectation, then 4 times becomes entitlement. The more you go on, the more it becomes dependency. And that's not good for them. Oops, go back one. Seek ways to empower through employment lending. I mean, that's what we really do, so we can go on. The interests of the poor, or let's say any person in need, above my own self-interests. That's okay. And whatever else it said there, whatever.
This is a little weird.
That's okay. The bottom line is I love the way that when we really do this, it's not just to free us and say, oh, good, I don't have to do all those things. But it gives dignity to the person and to the people. And that's what I appreciate that you're saying here, too, is our doing good for them, our loving them, our acknowledging you have assets, you have the abilities, you can do these things. It gives them that sense of dignity. So we wanted you to also have this, and if you haven't read the book, Toxic Charity, another resource for you is called Poverty Cure. There are some YouTube videos, there's a website, there's a lot of things. It talks about some things that have done internationally that have done more harm than good, but you can again take and make application to things here, which has really reframed my thought even about providing Christmas gifts for a family, for example, versus giving that family the capacity to provide some gifts for themselves or for their own children, and the greater dignity that provides. So, yes, see me if you'd like that book. We've got some copies of it, Toxic Charity, that we could loan out or.
You gave me that book the very first day I met with you.
It's interesting. On the website, I went and looked it up to try to print these things off. It says the controversial book, Toxic Charity. They don't agree with everything in it, and that's okay too. It's good, thought-provoking.
What were the YouTube videos?
Oh, Poverty Cure. If you just Google Poverty Cure.
Okay.
When I went to it, it took me right to this one little 4-minute video, and then I believe there's actually an entire movie, Poverty Inc. It was a documentary that some of us saw. Probably
Yes,
you and I went to see that. It was screened recently somewhere.
Majestic.
At the Majestic.
So, I keep forgetting the name of, what did Elbert Church just, is like Christian Netflix that was just put out, so this property here is on.
Is it on there?
Under the mission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jason
What
had
is that
mentioned that.
called?
Right Now Media.
Right now,
Right now,
yeah.
So,
Okay.
so this is the property here is on there, and I think it's under like the missions area or something like that. It's like 6 little videos, but if you could watch the Poverty Incorporated or even just 1 or 2,
Yes,
it's really eye-opening.
it is. It gives you a real perspective.
So,
Question. Aren't we making an assumption here that the person is capable of understanding what we're saying? Because I guess just last week I dealt with someone that clearly was cognitively impaired and possibly mentally ill. Or if he was mentally ill, is severe a case of obsessive compulsiveness. And he came in and talked to me probably about 5 times with the same thing. I told him what I suggested what he should do. He went and did it. 5 minutes later, he was back with the same question and went on all afternoon. I don't think he's capable of moving beyond that. Do we just keep doing it over and over again?
So, in all scenarios, one size does not fit all. As we listen, as we seek to understand where this person is, how do we link them so that they, whatever their abilities are, none of us, my aunt used to say, none of us have the whole enchilada. Nobody's got it all. All of us are limited, some more than others. Where can we link them with what we understand they are able to do? Our focus often is focusing on what the deficit is, and we need to understand that to be real. But to be real, we also need to see what are the strengths. What can they do? And it will be different for all of us. For each person, where can I link them, or what can I facilitate for them with what they can do? Yeah, that's how actually, thanks for the transition there. Because what I want to do in wrapping up, just direct our attention to this one passage. What can I do? Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. Now we ask you, brothers, to respect those who work hard among you, who are over you in the Lord, who admonish you. Hold them in the highest regard in love because of their work. Live in peace with each other. And we urge you, brothers, warn those who are idle, encourage the timid, help the weak, be patient with everyone. In love, seek and do what is good. So thanks for letting me share this with you this morning.
Thank you.
And welcome.
Thank you very much.